I sat alone at the table, watching my son Jason and his wife Brittany glide across the dance floor. We were celebrating. I had just sold my manufacturing company for $53 million. The restaurant was the finest in town, chandeliers sparkling overhead. A security guard approached me, leaned close, and whispered words that stopped my heart. He said he saw Jason pour something into my juice glass while I was in the restroom. My blood turned to ice. I looked at my son, smiling, dancing, looking so normal. The guard told me to act natural. 5 minutes later, I got up and left without a word. My hands shook on the steering wheel as I drove home through the dark streets. My phone kept buzzing. 17 missed calls from Jason, 23 text messages, each one more frantic than the last. "Where did you go? Dad, are you okay? Please answer. We're worried sick." I ignored them all. Before leaving the restaurant, I had done something. While pretending to gather my coat, I wrapped the juice glass in a cloth napkin and slipped it into my pocket. My own son, the boy I raised. I needed to know if the security guard was right, or if this was some terrible mistake. The next morning, I drove to Walter's house. Walter had been my friend for 32 years, a retired pharmacist who still kept a small lab in his basement for consulting work. I handed him the glass, still wrapped in the napkin. "I need you to test this," I said. "Tell me what's in it besides orange juice." Walter looked at my face and asked no questions. "Give me 3 days." Those 3 days were the longest of my life. I didn't return Jason's calls. I stayed home, doors locked, mind racing with terrible possibilities. Had I imagined the security guard? Was I losing my mind? But no. I remembered his face clearly. Marcus, something. The name tag had said, Marcus, Washington. On the 3rd day, Walter called. His voice was grim. "Freddie, you need to sit down." I was already sitting, but I gripped the chair arm tighter. High dose of ethylene glycol, mixed with sedatives. Antifreeze, Freddie. And enough Xanax to knock out a horse. This combination would have caused kidney failure within weeks, made to look like natural decline in an elderly man. The room spun. I thanked Walter and hung up. Then I threw up in the kitchen sink. My son tried to kill me. I couldn't go to the police. Not yet. I needed to understand why. I needed proof this wasn't just one terrible impulse, but a plan. So, I called Dennis Harper, a former police detective who now worked as a private investigator. I had used his services twice before for employee background checks at my company. "Dennis, I need you to investigate my son." Over the next 2 weeks, Dennis dug into Jason's life. What he found made me wish I had never asked. Jason had gambling debts totaling $470,000. Online poker, sports betting, casino trips to Atlantic City I knew nothing about. He owed money to people who didn't accept payment plans. But it got worse. Dennis found text messages between Jason and Brittany dating back 4 months, right after I announced the company sale. They discussed the plan. They researched untraceable poisons on their home computer. They visited websites about elderly dementia, about expediting inheritance, about power of attorney tricks. Brittany had searched natural causes, death investigation procedures, and how to fake concern for elderly parent. Jason had Googled, "How long does antifreeze poisoning take and symptoms of kidney failure in older men?" Dennis showed me the search history on his laptop. My stomach turned as I scrolled through weeks of research. They had been planning this methodically, carefully. The restaurant wasn't the beginning. It was supposed to be the final act. "There's more," Dennis said quietly. "Jason has been visiting you twice a week for the past 6 weeks, right?" "Yes." I thought he was finally making time for his old man. "He always brought you drinks? Food?" My mouth went dry. "Coffee, smoothies, sandwiches from that deli I like." "Freddie, I think he's been giving you small doses already, building it up in your system." I thought back to the past 6 weeks. The unusual fatigue. The foggy feeling that came and went. The headaches I blamed on stress from the company sale. I had mentioned it to Jason, and he had looked so concerned, so loving. He suggested I see a doctor, even offered to make the appointment. The timing was perfect. The company sale closed 3 weeks ago. $53 million wired to my account. And suddenly I'm supposed to get mysteriously sick and die. Dennis leaned forward. "If you confront them directly, they'll know you're onto them. We need more evidence for the police. Something undeniable. What do you suggest? We draw them out. You pretend nothing happened. Act like the restaurant was just food poisoning. Get them talking. Record everything. Make them think their plan is working." I looked at photos of Jason on my phone. Jason at 8 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, holding up his first caught fish. Jason at 16, awkward in his prom tuxedo. Jason at 22, walking across the stage at college graduation. I had paid $80,000 for his wedding 2 years ago. I never missed a Little League game. I taught him to drive, to shave, to shake hands firmly. Where did I lose him? Okay, I told Dennis. Let's do it. 3 days later, I called Jason. Told him I felt terrible about the restaurant, that I must have had food poisoning, that I was sorry for leaving so abruptly. My voice nearly broke saying these lies. Dad, we were so worried, Jason said. He sounded relieved. Can we come see you? Make sure you're okay? Of course, son. I'd like that. They came the next evening. Brittany brought flowers. Jason hugged me at the door, and I had to force myself not to pull away. We sat in my living room, making small talk, while a digital recorder hidden in my pocket captured every word. I became an actor in my own life. For 3 days after that first visit, I pretended everything was normal. I laughed at Jason's jokes. I complimented Brittany's new haircut, and I watched them exchange glances when they thought I wasn't looking. Little smiles, confident glances. They thought they were winning. On the 4th day, I started my performance. I called Jason and told him I felt confused, that I couldn't remember where I put my car keys. He came right over with Brittany. They found the keys on the kitchen counter where I had deliberately placed them, and they looked at each other with barely concealed satisfaction. Dad, have you been feeling okay? Jason asked, his voice dripping with false concern. Just tired, I suppose. Getting old. Maybe you should see a doctor. Maybe. From that day forward, Jason visited daily, always with smoothies. Protein shakes, Dad. Keep your strength up. He watched me drink them. I would take a sip, make a face, say it was too thick, and later dump it down the sink when he left. But I acted increasingly foggy, forgetful, weak. The digital recorder captured everything. Jason saying things like, Dad, you seem so confused lately. Maybe we should talk about your finances. Make sure everything's protected. Brittany pushing for me to give Jason power of attorney, just in case something happens. You want to make sure Jason can take care of things, right? After 2 weeks of this dangerous charade, Dennis called with news that changed everything. I found her real background, he said. We met at a coffee shop across town. Dennis slid a folder across the table. Her name was Brittany Morrison, before she married Jason. She was married once before, at age 24. Jason never mentioned that. I don't think he knew. She kept it hidden. Her first husband was Donald Morrison, real estate investor worth about $11 million. He died 5 years into their marriage. Kidney failure. Natural causes, they said. My coffee turned cold in my hand. Brittany inherited $7.3 million. The rest went to Donald's kids from his first marriage. They never contested it. Death seemed completely natural. How old was Donald when he died? 67. The same age I was now. Dennis pulled out more documents. I contacted Donald's daughter, Angela. She lives in Connecticut now. She said she always suspected something wasn't right about her father's death but had no proof. Donald became increasingly confused and sick over his final 8 months. Doctors couldn't find anything wrong until the sudden kidney failure. He showed me photos. Donald Morrison, in his final months, looked exactly like I was pretending to look. Gaunt. Confused. Weak. Angela said Brittany met her father at a charity event. They married within 6 months. Brittany was 24. Donald was 62. Everyone thought it was love. Maybe Donald did too. I stared at the photos. How did Brittany meet Jason? 14 months after Donald died, she attended a charity event for wealthy businessmen in this area. That's where she met Jason. But here's the thing. I checked her online activity. She'd been researching you for months before that event. Researching me? You did an interview with Business Weekly magazine about your company. You mentioned your son Jason, said he was single, mentioned the coffee shop he frequented downtown. 2 weeks later, Brittany accidentally bumped into Jason at that exact coffee shop, spilled her latte on him. They started talking. The rest, as they say, is history. My hands clenched into fists. She targeted him. She targeted your money through him. The wedding 9 months later was rushed because Brittany claimed she was pregnant. She had a miscarriage at 8 weeks, they told everyone. You don't think she was ever pregnant? I think it was a way to speed up the marriage. Get Jason legally tied to her before he thought too hard about it. Dennis pulled out one more document. This is the hardest part. I think she's done this before Donald, too. I found a suspicious death in her past when she was 19. An elderly uncle who changed his will to include her shortly before dying of mysterious illness. She got $50,000. Not enough to investigate deeply, but the pattern was there. I sat back in my chair. The coffee shop noise faded around me. I was dealing with a serial killer, a patient, methodical predator who found wealthy older men or cultivated relationships with their children. She had probably been planning this for a year, maybe longer. "We need to go to the police now," I said. Dennis shook his head. "With what evidence?" "Donald's death was ruled natural causes 10 years ago. The uncle even longer. And your situation? You have a juice glass tested by a private lab and some suspicious internet searches. A good defense lawyer would tear it apart. We need more. We need them to confess on tape or get caught in the act. How long do I have to keep up this act?" "As long as it takes. But Freddie, you need to understand. You're dealing with someone who has killed before and gotten away with it. She's smart, she's careful, and she's getting impatient." That night, I sat alone in my house and realized my son was not the mastermind. He was a tool, an instrument. Brittany had found a man with a gambling problem, a distant relationship with his wealthy father, and just enough desperation to be moldable. She had shaped him into a killer. But that didn't excuse what Jason was doing. He was a grown man making his own choices. He knew right from wrong. And he chose this. The recording device in my pocket held hours of their voices, their plans, their fake concern. But Dennis was right. It wasn't enough. Not yet. So I continued my performance, falling deeper into my role as a confused, declining old man. And I watched my son and his wife circle closer, like sharks smelling blood. I just didn't realize how dangerous the game was about to become. On a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks into my performance, I received a call that nearly stopped my heart for a second time. "Mr. Freddie Brennan? This is Special Agent Christine Torres with the FBI. I need to schedule a meeting with you regarding your recent business sale." My lawyer, Patricia Cunningham, sat beside me 2 days later as Agent Torres laid out her investigation. Someone had filed a complaint alleging fraud in my company sale. The accusation claimed I had falsified revenue reports, inflated the company's value, and defrauded the buyers out of millions of dollars. "This is insane," I said. "My company records were perfect. The sale was completely legitimate." Agent Torres slid documents across her desk. "These quarterly reports show significantly higher revenue than your tax filings for the same periods. Can you explain that?" I looked at the numbers. They were wrong. Completely fabricated. I never filed these reports. These aren't my numbers. They came from your company's servers, filed under your credentials. Patricia jumped in. "We'll need time to investigate this. My client is being framed." Over the next 3 days, Patricia and a digital forensics expert named Carl examined my company's computer systems. What they found made my blood boil. Someone had remotely accessed my company records 6 weeks ago. They altered old quarterly reports to show inflated numbers that didn't match my tax filings. They created a false email trail, making it look like I had ordered the alterations. They planted evidence suggesting I knew the company was struggling but hid it from the buyers. The access came from my home computer. Carl traced the intrusion. "Someone installed remote access software on your personal computer 2 months ago. They've been controlling it from another location." "Who?" "I can't tell you who, but I can tell you when it was installed. August 14th. I checked my calendar. August 14th was the day Jason came over to help update my computer. He said I needed better antivirus software. He spent 2 hours on my laptop while I made dinner." Patricia had more bad news. "Jason has keys to your house. He knows where you keep all your passwords. You wrote them in a notebook in your desk drawer, didn't you?" I nodded, feeling foolish. "He installed the software, got your passwords, and has been accessing your accounts remotely ever since." Dennis joined our investigation. He found that Brittany's younger brother Craig was a computer programmer living in Seattle. Craig had visited Jason and Brittany 3 times in the past 2 months. Very unusual for someone who lived across the country and had never visited before. The picture became clear. This wasn't just about poisoning me. It was about destroying me first. Frame me for fraud, ruin my credibility, make me look like a criminal and mentally unstable, then petition for power of attorney while I was too distracted by federal charges to fight back. Control my money to protect it during legal troubles, then finish the poisoning while everyone thought I was just a sick old man stressed by legal problems. But they weren't done. The next Monday, I received notice that Jason had filed an emergency petition with the county court. He was seeking temporary power of attorney over my affairs. The petition claimed I was showing signs of dementia, making irrational decisions, at risk of losing everything in the FBI investigation, and needed immediate protection. His evidence? Videos of me acting confused. Doctor's notes about my recent foggy behavior from when Jason had taken me to a doctor and described symptoms I didn't actually have. Statements from concerned neighbors. Jason had hired an elder law attorney named Bradley Cooper, who specialized in these cases. The court date was set for 2 weeks away. The news of the FBI investigation spread through town like wildfire. The local newspaper ran a front-page story with the headline, "Local business owner under federal investigation for fraud." My photo looked haggard. Guilty. Business associates stopped returning my calls. Friends from the country club made excuses when I suggested lunch. People I had known for 20 years crossed the street to avoid me. My world was crumbling, exactly as Jason and Brittany planned. Patricia called an emergency meeting. The judge might grant Jason temporary power of attorney given the circumstances. Elderly man, possibly declining mentally, under federal investigation, appears to need protection. Can we fight it? We need to prove you were framed, that Jason is behind both the FBI complaint and the computer intrusion. But we need more time to gather evidence, and the hearing is in 12 days. Dennis had been working around the clock. I can prove Craig installed the remote software. I can show Jason's motive with the gambling debts, but it's still circumstantial. A good lawyer will say you're paranoid, seeing conspiracies. What about going public with everything? The poisoning attempt? Brittany's first husband? Patricia shook her head. Not enough proof yet. It'll look like you're desperately trying to deflect from the fraud charges. Could actually help Jason's case that you're mentally unstable. I felt the walls closing in. Every move I made, they had anticipated. Every defense I mounted, they had already undermined. My son was systematically destroying my life, and I was running out of time. That night, I couldn't sleep. I looked in the mirror and saw what everyone else saw. An old man. Stressed. Haggard. Exactly how Jason had described me to the court. The irony was that my act had become reality. The stress was real. The weight loss was real. I looked exactly like someone who needed a guardian. Old friends who saw me thought maybe Jason was right. I heard the whispers at church that Sunday. Maybe he does need help. Poor Jason, having to watch his father decline like this. Such a devoted son. The performance I had started to trap Jason had become my own prison. With 9 days left before the power of attorney hearing, Patricia requested all my financial records to prove I was mentally competent and managing my affairs properly. She wanted to show the court I was organized, rational, fully in control. What she found instead was financial chaos. "Freddie, have you been writing checks to J. Brennan Consulting?" She sat across from me in her office. Bank statements spread across the desk. "I've never heard of that company. Over the past 4 months, you've written checks totaling $193,000 to them." I grabbed the statements. The signatures looked like mine, but I never wrote those checks. Patricia hired a handwriting analyst. The expert confirmed the signatures were forged, very skilled forgeries, but not perfect. Under magnification, the pressure patterns were wrong. The hesitation marks showed someone copying rather than naturally signing. Dennis traced J. Brennan Consulting to a post office box in Delaware. The company was registered 5 months ago through a law firm that handled anonymous business registrations. After legal pressure, they revealed the beneficial owner was Jason Brennan, my son, using his middle name. But the checks were just the beginning. Patricia and Dennis dug deeper into my accounts. What they found made me physically ill. 3 months ago, someone forged my signature on a home equity line of credit application. They borrowed $240,000 against my house. The money went into an account I never opened. 2 months ago, forged documents moved stock certificates worth $185,000 from my brokerage account into a joint account listing both my name and Jason's. I never authorized it. 6 weeks ago, my life insurance beneficiary was changed. The $3 million policy had been split between several charities I supported. Now it listed Jason as the sole beneficiary. Another forged signature. Total theft and fraud, documented so far, exceeded $600,000. "He's been systematically looting your accounts," Patricia said. "The poisoning was never just about inheritance. He's been stealing from you for months while planning to kill you. Can we take this to the police now?" Patricia hesitated. "Here's the problem. You're under FBI investigation for fraud. If you file charges against Jason now, prosecutors might see it as retaliation. Like you're trying to frame your son to distract from your own crimes. But I'm innocent. I know that. But the optics are terrible. Jason's lawyer will argue you're paranoid, mentally declining, seeing conspiracies everywhere. It could actually strengthen his power of attorney case. Look, the judge will say, his father is so confused he's accusing his own son of forgery. Dennis agreed. We need to clear your name in the FBI investigation first. Prove you were framed. Then the forgeries become additional evidence of Jason's crimes, not your paranoid accusations. How long will the FBI investigation take? Months, normally. The hearing is in 9 days. Patricia rubbed her temples. I know. We're working on it. Carl is close to proving the remote access came from Jason's location. If we can show the FBI you were framed, it weakens Jason's whole case. But time was not our friend. That evening, I sat in my house and realized how brilliant their plan had been. Discredit me. Entangle me in legal chaos. Make me look unstable. Take control through the courts. Then finish the job while everyone thought I was just a sick old man under stress. Jason had thought of everything. I barely slept anymore. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a ghost. My clothes hung loose. My skin had a gray tinge. I was becoming the person Jason described to the court without even trying. Old clients who saw me downtown looked away. The pharmacist who had filled my prescriptions for 15 years treated me coldly. At the bank, the teller who usually chatted about her grandchildren barely made eye contact. My reputation, built over 40 years in this town, had been destroyed in 3 weeks. Patricia called with more bad news. The company buyers are threatening a lawsuit over the alleged fraud. They want to freeze all your assets, including the $53 million from the sale, pending investigation. Can they do that? If a judge agrees there's sufficient evidence of fraud, yes. And if your assets are frozen, you won't be able to pay me or Dennis. You'll have to use a public defender. The trap was complete. No money, no legal representation, facing criminal charges, looking mentally unstable, and my son about to gain control of everything. I spent that night going through old photo albums, Jason's first day of school, his 10th birthday party, teaching him to ride a bike, his high school graduation. Each photo felt like a lie now. Had I ever really known him? Or had I loved an illusion? Around midnight, I put the albums away and sat in the dark. My hands shook. My chest felt tight. I wondered if this was how Donald Morrison felt in his final months. Confused. Betrayed. Watching his life unravel and not understanding why, Jason had stopped visiting. He was confident now. The legal system would give him everything in 9 days. Why bother with the pretense of concern? I was completely alone, and I was running out of moves. 3 days before the power of attorney hearing, Patricia finally got a break. Carl's digital forensics traced the fake FBI evidence definitively to the remote software on my computer. Timestamps proved I was at my country club, caught on security cameras, when the alterations were made. I couldn't have been at home on my computer and at the club simultaneously. The FBI agreed to pause their investigation pending further evidence. I wasn't cleared yet, but I was no longer facing imminent charges. Patricia was elated. This weakens Jason's entire argument. We can show the judge you were framed, that you're thinking clearly, that you don't need a guardian. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope. The morning before the hearing, my phone rang. Jason, first time in 2 weeks. Dad, can we meet for coffee? Clear the air before tomorrow? I agreed. Partly because I was still recording everything. Partly because some foolish part of me hoped this was Jason coming to his senses. We met at a cafe downtown. Jason arrived with Brittany. She was glowing, practically bouncing. They sat across from me, holding hands. Dad, we have news, Jason said, smiling. Brittany's pregnant. 12 weeks. Brittany's eyes filled with tears. She reached across the table toward my hand. We wanted you to know before the hearing. We don't want legal battles tearing this family apart. We're going to have a baby, Jason continued. Your grandchild, Dad. Doesn't that change things? Brittany dabbed her eyes with a napkin. I know you've been under stress. The FBI investigation, feeling overwhelmed. We understand. We just want to help. We only want to protect Jason's inheritance because your grandchild deserves security. She was good. Very good. The tears looked real. The concern in her voice sounded genuine. If I didn't know what I knew, I might have believed her. If you voluntarily give Jason power of attorney, she continued, we can drop the court petition. No judges, no lawyers. We can be a family again. Jason nodded eagerly. You can still live in your house, Dad. We'll just help manage the finances until you're feeling better. Until the FBI thing is resolved. Brittany touched her belly. We want our baby to know their grandfather. Please don't let lawyers destroy this family. The manipulation was expert. Perfect even. Playing on my emotions. The promise of a grandchild. the image of family reconciliation. All I had to do was surrender control of my money. Part of me wanted to believe them, that tiny, desperate part that still remembered Jason as a boy, that wanted to believe maybe the pregnancy changed everything, maybe they would stop. But then I looked into Brittany's eyes. Behind the tears, behind the performance, I saw calculation. Cold, empty. "I need time to think," I said. Jason's smile tightened. "The hearing is tomorrow morning, Dad. We need an answer. I'll let you know by tonight." They left, Brittany's hand protectively on her belly, Jason's arm around her shoulders, a picture of young love and concern. Anyone watching would see a devoted couple trying to help a difficult elderly father. That afternoon, Dennis called. I checked into the pregnancy claim. And Brittany visited her gynecologist 2 weeks ago, Dr. Sandra Mitchell. I found a former nurse who used to work with Dr. Mitchell, woman named Amy. She was willing to talk confidentially. What did she say? Brittany has a history of faking pregnancies. She did it with Donald Morrison. Claimed pregnancy to rush the wedding, then miscarried at 8 weeks. Amy remembers the medical records showed Brittany was never actually pregnant. My stomach sunk. "I can't prove this pregnancy is fake yet," Dennis continued. "It's too early for public records, but I found something suspicious. Brittany bought home pregnancy tests from 3 different pharmacies 4 weeks ago, all on the same day. Why would she need multiple tests from multiple stores?" Exactly. Unless she was trying to ensure a positive result. You can fake pregnancy tests, Freddie. Certain medications trigger false positives. You can even buy positive tests online. So this is another manipulation. I can't prove it definitively, but everything points to it. This is her final play. Create a sympathetic image for the court. Emotional blackmail to make you surrender. If you fight, you're the villain keeping the grandchild away from its inheritance. I called Patricia and told her about the meeting. The pregnancy, real or fake, could sway the judge, she admitted. Young couple trying to provide for a baby. Elderly man being stubborn about help. It plays well. What about our evidence? The FBI case? It helps. But Jason's lawyer has character witnesses lined up. Your pastor, neighbors, Jason's friends. All ready to testify that Jason is a responsible, devoted son, and you've been declining. That evening, I sat in my study surrounded by legal documents. Outside my window, I watched neighbors walk their dogs, children ride bikes, normal people living normal lives. I used to be one of them. My phone buzzed with a text from Jason. "Dad, we need your answer. Please do this for your grandchild." I looked at old photos on my desk. Jason at 5, missing his front teeth. Jason at 12, covered in mud from soccer practice. Jason at 18, in his cap and gown. Where did I lose you? I wondered. When did money become more important than your father's life? Or had Brittany simply found something in him that was always there, waiting to be activated? I didn't respond to the text. That night, I barely slept. Tomorrow the hearing would happen. A judge would decide if my own son should control my life. And I still didn't have enough evidence to prove what they really were. As dawn broke, I realized something terrible. Even if I won tomorrow, even if the judge sided with me, I had already lost. I had lost my son. I had lost the family I thought I had. I had lost my place in this community. They had taken everything that mattered, regardless of what happened in court. The courtroom was packed. I arrived with Patricia at 8:45. The hearing started at 9. Jason and Brittany sat in the front row with their lawyer, Bradley Cooper. Brittany wore a tasteful blue dress that showed the slightest curve of her belly. Jason wore a dark suit and a concerned expression. They looked like worried children trying to help their difficult father. Behind them sat the witnesses Jason had gathered. Pastor Michaels from our church, my neighbor Ellen from across the street, 3 of Jason's friends, all ready to testify about my decline. On my side of the courtroom, there was only Patricia and Dennis. No supporters, no friends, no one. Judge Carolyn Hendricks entered. She was 62, known for being protective of elderly people. Patricia had warned me this wasn't ideal. Judges who wanted to protect elderly people often sided with family members seeking guardianship. Bradley Cooper presented Jason's case first. He was smooth, practiced. He showed the videos of me acting confused. He cited the FBI investigation as evidence of declining judgment. He painted a picture of a once competent man, now losing his grip on reality. Dr. Raymond Fletcher testified next. He was the doctor Jason had taken me to 3 weeks ago. Mr. Brennan complained of memory issues, confusion, difficulty concentrating, Dr. Fletcher said, reading from his notes. He seemed disoriented about dates. I recommended follow-up appointments, but he never returned. I wanted to scream that those were symptoms Jason described, not symptoms I had, but Patricia squeezed my arm. Pastor Michaels took the stand. Jason is a devoted son. He comes to me often, very worried about his father. He's trying everything to help. Freddie, on the other hand, has become isolated. Stopped attending church regularly. Seems suspicious of everyone. My neighbor Ellen testified about seeing me in my bathrobe at noon, talking to myself. She made it sound alarming. She didn't mention I was checking my mail and talking on my phone with wireless earbuds. Jason's friend Timothy described Jason's anguish, his sleepless nights worrying about me, his desperate attempts to help. The testimony went on. Each witness added to the picture of a man in decline and a son trying heroically to save him. Then Jason took the stand. He cried. Real tears streamed down his face as he described watching his father deteriorate. He talked about his fear, his love, his desperation to protect me from myself. The FBI investigation is breaking my heart, Jason said. My father built that company over 30 years. He was so proud of it. But something went wrong with the sale. I don't know if it's the stress or his age, but he made mistakes. Serious mistakes. And now he won't accept help. He looked directly at me. Dad, I love you. Please let me help you. If I didn't know the truth, I would have believed him. He was that good. Brittany testified next. She touched her belly frequently, a reminder of the life supposedly growing inside her. We want to protect Freddie's assets for his grandchild, she said softly. We want him to be comfortable, cared for. We're not trying to take anything from him. We just want to make sure he's safe. The judge's expression softened as she watched Brittany. Then it was our turn. Patricia presented the FBI evidence. She showed the digital forensics proving the fraud was committed remotely while I was elsewhere. She showed Jason's financial motive, the gambling debts, the forged checks. Judge Hendricks listened but looked skeptical. Why didn't Mr. Brennan report the forgeries to police? She asked. The timing with the FBI investigation made it complicated, Your Honor, Patricia explained. Sounds convenient. Patricia showed the documentation of Jason's thefts, the home equity line, the changed life insurance, the stolen stock certificates. Jason's lawyer objected. This alleged theft wasn't reported to police. These accusations only surfaced when my client sought to help his father. This is exactly the kind of paranoid thinking that demonstrates Mr. Brennan's need for assistance. I watched the judge's face. She was buying it. Then I took the stand. I tried to explain everything. The restaurant, the security guard, the poisoning attempt, Jason's debts, Brittany's first husband's death, the whole conspiracy. But as I talked, I heard how I sounded. Paranoid, desperate, seeing plots everywhere. Judge Hendricks cut me off. Mr. Brennan, do you have the juice glass from the restaurant? A police report about poisoning? I had it tested privately. By whom? A friend who's a retired pharmacist. So, not an official police lab. No, but... And this security guard who supposedly warned you, did he file a report? I don't know. I left. So we have an untested juice glass and an unnamed security guard. And you're accusing your son of attempted murder based on this? She looked at me with pity. The kind of pity you give someone who has lost their grip on reality. Your Honor, I said desperately. My son researched how to poison people. His wife killed her first husband the same way. Alleged killing, Jason's lawyer interrupted. That death was ruled natural causes. There has never been any evidence of foul play. This is pure speculation driven by Mr. Brennan's deteriorating mental state. I saw the judge's decision forming on her face. She was going to rule for Jason. Give him temporary power of attorney. Put me under my would-be killer's control. Patricia tried one more time. Your Honor, if you just give us time to... The courtroom doors swung open. A tall black man in a security uniform walked in, followed by an older woman in a business suit. Your Honor, the man said. I apologize for the interruption. My name is Marcus Washington. I'm the security guard from Palazzo Restaurant. I have information relevant to this case. Judge Hendricks looked annoyed, but intrigued. Approach the bench. Patricia quickly called Marcus as a witness. Jason's lawyer objected, but the judge allowed it. Marcus took the stand and told his story. How he saw Jason pour something from a small vial into my drink. How he reported it to the restaurant manager. How they reviewed security footage. We kept the footage, Your Honor. I have it here. He handed a USB drive to the bailiff. The courtroom watched as grainy security footage played on the screen. There was Jason, clear as day, looking around nervously before pouring something from a tiny vial into my orange juice glass. The courtroom erupted in gasps. Jason stood up. That footage is fake. Someone doctored it. Judge Hendricks banged her gavel. Mr. Brennan, sit down, Marcus continued. After I saw news coverage of this hearing, I contacted the restaurant manager. We also found that Mr. Jason Brennan visited the restaurant twice in the month before, asking specific questions about table locations and security camera angles. The manager thought it was odd, kept notes. The woman in the business suit was called next. Angela Morrison, Donald's daughter. She testified about her father's death, the same symptoms, the same pattern. The photos she brought showed Donald in his final months looking exactly like Jason had described me. I always suspected Brittany, Angela said, but I had no proof. Seeing the same thing happen to Mr. Brennan, I hired an investigator. We found the medical examiner who handled my father's case. Patricia had arranged for the medical examiner to testify by phone. His voice came through the courtroom speakers. I reviewed Donald Morrison's case after being contacted by his daughter. We preserved tissue samples. I retested them with modern techniques. I found traces of ethylene glycol, antifreeze, in levels consistent with poisoning. The death should have been investigated as a homicide. The courtroom went silent. Then Patricia presented the final evidence. Phone records. Text messages between Jason and Brittany subpoenaed just yesterday. The messages were damning. What worked before will work again. Once Dad signs over authority, we finish quickly. References to Craig handling the computer problems. Discussion of how to split $53 million. One text from Brittany made me close my eyes. Pregnancy announcement will seal it. He can't resist grandpa emotions. Jason's response. If he fights too hard, we do it faster. Stage an accident. Judge Hendricks read the texts, her face turning pale. Bailiff, call the police. Jason jumped up. This is all fake. My father paid people to frame me. He's desperate and crazy and... Mr. Brennan, you need to stop talking, his lawyer hissed. Detective Raymond Carter entered the courtroom. He had been waiting outside, Patricia revealed. She had contacted him that morning with the evidence. Detective Carter arrested Jason and Brittany on the spot. Attempted murder, fraud, forgery, conspiracy. Additional investigation pending regarding Donald Morrison's death. Jason screamed at me as the handcuffs clicked onto his wrists. You ruined my life. You were supposed to die. I deserved that money. You owed me. Brittany stayed silent. Her face was cold, empty. As the officers led her away, she leaned close to me and whispered, "The baby is real, and you'll never see it." The courtroom cleared. The hearing was dismissed. Judge Hendricks apologized to me, said if not for the security guard's courage, she would have ruled wrong. But I barely heard her. I stood alone in the empty courtroom, hands shaking, watching through the windows as police cars drove away with my son in the back seat. Jason's face was pressed against the glass, still yelling, though I couldn't hear him anymore. Patricia touched my shoulder. You won, Freddie. But I didn't feel like I won. I felt hollow. 2 months passed before I could sleep through the night. Jason and Brittany were held without bail. The charges were serious. Multiple counts of fraud, forgery, attempted murder, conspiracy. The district attorney was building a case that would keep them in prison for decades. The FBI officially cleared me. They issued a public apology. The local newspaper ran a front-page correction. Business associates called to apologize for doubting me. Friends from the country club suddenly remembered we were friends. Their apologies felt empty. The company buyers not only confirmed the sale was legitimate, but increased the purchase price by $2 million to compensate for damage to my reputation. I didn't care. The money meant nothing. Police reopened Donald Morrison's death as a homicide investigation. The tissue samples with ethylene glycol traces were damning. Angela finally had justice for her father. Investigators found Brittany had been researching wealthy elderly men online for years. She had a list: names, ages, estimated net worth, family situations. I was number 4 on her list. Donald Morrison had been number 2. They suspected at least 2 other deaths in other states might be connected to her. Craig, her brother, was arrested in Seattle for his role in the computer fraud. He had installed the remote software and created the fake FBI evidence for $30,000. He got 8 years. The trials dragged on for months. I attended every day of testimony. I needed to understand. Needed to hear why. Jason's trial revealed the depth of his gambling addiction. He owed money to loan sharks who threatened his life. He was desperate when Brittany suggested the plan. At first, he resisted, he claimed. But she wore him down. Convinced him I was old anyway, that the money was going to be his eventually, that I wouldn't suffer. Listening to him testify, I heard no remorse. Only excuses. The jury deliberated 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. 15 years in prison. Brittany's trial for Donald's murder came next. The prosecution proved she researched antifreeze poisoning 6 months before Donald died. They showed her internet searches, her purchase of ethylene glycol disguised as automotive supplies, witness testimony about her dosing Donald's drinks. She sat through the trial expressionless, never showed emotion, never broke character. Life sentence, without parole for Donald's murder. 25 additional years for my attempted murder. She would die in prison. At her sentencing, the judge asked if she had anything to say. Brittany looked directly at me. I would have made it quick for you. That was mercy. Those were the last words she ever spoke to me. The baby was real. Brittany gave birth in prison to a girl. She named her Sophia. The state took custody immediately. A foster family in another state adopted her. I will never know her. Never hold my granddaughter. Never teach her to ride a bike or take her fishing. That loss aches more than Jason's betrayal. After the trials ended, I tried to return to my life, but my life was gone. The house felt too big. The town felt hostile, despite the apologies. I couldn't walk downtown without people staring, whispering. One afternoon, 3 months after the sentencing, I called Marcus Washington, the security guard who saved my life. We met for coffee. I never properly thanked you, I said. Marcus shrugged. I almost didn't say anything. Thought maybe I was wrong, but I couldn't live with myself if something happened and I stayed quiet. You saved my life. You would have done the same. I thought about that. Would I have? If I saw something wrong, would I have had the courage to speak up? I hope so. I want to give you something, I said. I slid an envelope across the table. Marcus opened it. Inside was a check for $500,000. He stared at it, tears forming in his eyes. I can't accept this. Yes, you can. You have 3 children. Put them through college. Buy a house. You earned this. Marcus cried. We both did. He told me about his kids, his dreams for them. We talked for 3 hours. By the end, we were friends. We still have lunch once a month. The trials and aftermath taught me something. When everyone abandoned me, when my reputation was destroyed, when I was alone and terrified, 3 people stood by me. Walter, who tested the juice without hesitation. Patricia, who believed me when nobody else did. Dennis, who worked tirelessly to find the truth. They were my real family. I started seeing them regularly. Walter and I play chess every Tuesday. Patricia and I volunteer together at the legal aid clinic. Dennis and I go fishing every other weekend. One afternoon, Patricia suggested something. You have $55 million now, with the settlement. What are you going to do with it? I had been thinking about that. I established the Second Chance Foundation with $30 million. Its mission is helping elderly people who have been financially exploited by family members. We provide legal assistance, investigation services, emergency housing, and counseling. Marcus joined the board of directors. So did Angela Morrison. So did Walter, Patricia, and Dennis. In our first year, we helped 17 families. We stopped 3 active exploitation schemes. We recovered stolen money for 5 elderly victims. We got 2 criminals convicted. One case stays with me. An elderly woman named Helen, whose daughter was stealing her pension check every month. Helen lived on crackers and tap water while her daughter bought a new car. We helped Helen get a restraining order, recover the stolen money, and find a safe apartment. Helen reminded me of my mother, who died 10 years ago. The day we moved Helen into her new apartment, she hugged me and cried. I cried too. For her. For my mother. For all the innocence I had lost. The foundation gave me purpose. A reason to wake up. A way to turn my nightmare into something meaningful. We're helping people. Every day. Preventing what happened to me from happening to others. That matters more than anything. A year after the trials, the prison chaplain who counsels Jason contacted me. He said Jason was in therapy, starting to understand the magnitude of what he did. He wanted to know if I would visit. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to see him, to understand how the boy I raised became the man who tried to kill me. Part of me wanted closure, whatever that meant. But mostly, I felt nothing. The love I had for Jason was gone, not replaced by hate, just gone. An empty space where a son used to be. I told the chaplain no, not yet. Maybe someday after Jason served his sentence, proved he changed, we could talk. But I wouldn't wait for that day. Wouldn't build my life around hope of reconciliation. I had to move forward. I sold my house. Too many memories. Moved to a smaller place across town. Started fresh. The foundation grew. We opened an office. Hired staff. Expanded to 3 other states. In 2 years, we helped over 50 families. I still think about Jason sometimes. Wonder if there was a moment I could have changed things. A conversation we should have had. A warning sign I missed. But I know the truth. Jason made his choices. Brittany exploited his weakness. But the weakness was already there. The willingness to hurt his own father for money existed in him before she came along. She just gave him permission to act on it. That's the hardest truth. My son was capable of this all along. 5 years have passed since the restaurant. I'm 72 now. My hair is completely white. My hands shake a little. I'm genuinely old now, not pretending. But I'm alive. I wake up every morning and go to the foundation office. I meet with families who are scared, confused, betrayed by people they trusted. I tell them my story. I show them they can survive this. I give them hope. Last month, we prevented a grandson from poisoning his grandmother for inheritance money. The family got the grandson help instead of pressing charges. He's in rehab now, dealing with his drug addiction that drove him to such desperation. Not every story ends with prison. Sometimes, it ends with healing. I keep one photo of Jason on my desk, him at age 8, holding up a fish we caught together. He's grinning, gap-toothed, and innocent. I keep it not as a memory of him, but as a reminder. Evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like your own son. The hardest lesson I learned is this. Family bonds are precious, but they must be built on integrity and love, not just blood. Money tests character in ways nothing else can. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And surviving betrayal isn't about revenge or bitterness. It's about finding new purpose and protecting others from the same pain. True strength isn't in never falling. It's in choosing to stand again and help others stand too. I think about Marcus Washington sometimes, how he almost stayed silent, how one person's courage to speak up saved my life and exposed a serial killer. We all have those moments, when we see something wrong, when we know we should say something but it's scary or inconvenient. Marcus teaches me to never stay silent. Every person we help at the foundation is because Marcus had courage that night in the restaurant. I'll spend the rest of my life paying that courage forward. My son is in prison. My granddaughter will never know me. My reputation took years to rebuild, but I'm still here, still fighting, still helping others. That's enough. That's everything. So let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you saw something wrong but weren't sure if you should speak up? Have you ever had to choose between staying silent and risking everything to do what's right? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else find their courage. If this story moved you or made you think, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about resilience, survival, and finding purpose after betrayal. And share this video with someone who might need to hear that they can survive anything, even the worst betrayal from the people they love most. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that no matter how dark things get, there's always a path forward. You're stronger than you think. Keep fighting. Keep standing up. Keep protecting others. Take care of yourselves and each other.